Onyx 1-2 Mike Oscar, runway 27, clear for takeoff.
Welcome to your Monday briefing from the Calm Cockpit podcast. This Monday briefing is designed to help you start your week off right, to help you begin on a relaxed yet focused foot by offering little tips and bits of inspiration on how to incorporate the best practices of high performance, mindful living, and good old-fashioned stress reduction so you can have a great week. I'm Geeta Brown, midlife student pilot, yoga and music educator, and for more than 30 years now, I've been teaching high performers how to improve their lives and improve their performance, but without adding more stress. And today, I am really excited to give you just a few ideas for improving performance with a tool that you always have with you, that is completely portable, and that is completely free. And this tool is your breath. Now, my co-host, John Niehaus, who is a flight instructor, master pilot, and corporate pilot, he and I are going to do a much longer episode all about breathing and the breath. Going to do a real deep dive into both the science and the practical applications of it. But today I wanted to use a little bit of a primer on this, and I wanted to offer a little inspiration for those of you who may already do some breath work or breathing practices, give you a little camaraderie and encouragement to keep going. Because very often we pick up habits like doing 5 or 10 minutes of breathing in the morning or the evening, but then it can really easily fall by the wayside, especially because our culture doesn't really reinforce how valuable and concrete these practices are. So this is a little validation for those of you already doing this work. But for those of you who have never tried breathing practices, or maybe you're like super skeptical or you've tried them and felt like they didn't work for you, I'd like to give you a few ideas today about how breathing practices affect both the mind and body, but especially the practical application of this in your daily and, of course, your flying life. And as much as I want to, today I'm not going to guide a full breathing practice. I'm going to save that for the longer episode that John and I are going to do together over the coming months. And when we release that episode, I'm also going to release a bonus practice that you can do along with me, where I will be guiding concrete breathing practices that you can really follow along with. And I am going to, though, put in the show notes an episode that we did with yoga instructor Sarah Gilbert. She is extremely skilled, and she led a beautiful and powerful breathing practice that we released as a standalone episode. So I'll throw that in the show notes so you can check that out if you want to give one of these breathing practices a try for yourself. And I actually heard from one of our dear listeners who said that that episode helped her through her IFR check ride. And if that isn't high praise, I don't know what is. And I love hearing stories like that. So definitely check that out in the show notes if you want to do a little breathing practices. But today, I just want to start seeding your brain with a few ideas about breath. And even though I said I wasn't going to do it, let's do at least one breath here together to start. Just start by firmly rooting your feet on the floor wherever you are. If you're driving your car, just wiggle your toes. Let your hips release for a moment. Find some length in your spine from the base of the tailbone, through the middle back, through the upper back, neck, and shoulders. Just allow some space to happen. Allow the crown of the head to rise slightly. Encourage the shoulders to release. Unclench the jaw, the hands, and now imagine that there's a silken thread attached to the top of your head, and it's very gently pulling you upward. No effort on your part, just allowing some length and spaciousness to appear. And in this space you've created in your body, take whatever feels like a slow, deep inhale for you, and then a long, emptying exhale. Now, you just demonstrated for yourself the first point I want to make today. Our breath is one of the most amazing functions of our human body because it runs under automatic nervous system control. It just goes automatically, yet we can also consciously control it. And I think that's fascinating. Think about the other autonomic processes, your heartbeat, your digestion. We can influence them a little bit, but we can't immediately command them in the same way that we can say, inhale deeply and exhale slowly. We have tremendous authority over the pace and flow of our breath, yet we can also completely forget about it while we sleep, eat, talk, or fly an airplane, and it continues all on its own. And this is really extraordinary because this is where it becomes useful for us pilots, is that the breath is completely portable, but it can also come under our direct command authority to help reset our nervous system. Because anytime we need it, we can consciously direct a slow breath to happen. Maybe something unusual happens in the cockpit, or you notice something a little off during the pre-flight walk around. Or maybe you're taking one of those written exams for a rating or a recurrence and you hit a question and you get that brain freeze. Instead of rushing immediately towards a solution or reacting impulsively, we can simply pause and say, for one moment, I'm going to stop and take a slow inhale and a long emptying exhale. And this shift of awareness from the external world to the internal world of the breath is gold. Because very often our mistakes happen when we rush, when we stop seeing the full scope of information around us, when we get tunnel vision, and then the tunnel vision makes us rush more, which creates more tension, then even more tunnel vision, and it can spiral really quickly. But the conscious act of taking a breath buys us time. And time is one of our most precious commodities. The pause before a reaction can very often be the thing that changes the course of our day. The power of our life is often in the moments when we pause. So I invite you to start looking at your breath as something that gives your mind a place to land before you turn your attention to the problem in front of you. Now, the second thing I wish every aviator knew about their breath is this, that the slow, deep breath works on the body through the vagus nerve. This nerve, I could nerd out on this for like an hour, so I will keep this brief just by saying that the vagus nerve is a fascinating cranial nerve that runs from your brainstem down through the neck and into the area of the diaphragm, which is the primary muscle of respiration. This diaphragm muscle moves from the very first time you take a breath as a baby until your final exhale. And because the vagus nerve is constantly interacting with the diaphragm, the pace of your breath directly influences your nervous system. When we take a slow inhale and a long emptying exhale, especially that extended exhale, it stimulates the vagus nerve in a way that sends a message to the brain that says, it's okay to slow down. It is okay to lower the blood pressure. It's okay for the breath rate to slow. And this makes it easier for the brain to move towards balance instead of being stuck in that fight, flight, freeze, or flee, or overwhelm feeling that we can have. If we can even shift our level of daily tension from a 7 to a 5, that has profound effects on our overall health and our capacity to handle challenging moments. What is fascinating to me is that we often think that calmness comes only from the thinking mind. But our body has tremendous intelligence too. And when we consciously slow the breath, the body sends information back to the brain that influences thought patterns, mood, clarity, and emotional regulation. It literally sets up a neurochemical stew in the brain that brings us towards balance. It's this constant two-way conversation. You consciously say, I'm going to take a slow, deep breath. And then in doing that slow, deep breath, the vagus nerve sends a message back up to the brain to release neurochemicals that are primed to help us have a more calm, focused, and well-paced both body and thought process. It's this constant loop where each informs the other. And I think we can use that loop to our advantage. We don't always have to think our way out of stress. Sometimes we can give a simple command to breathe, and the breathing will help us move into a less stressed state. I have one more thing that I wish every aviator knew about their breath is this. If you are someone who thinks that breathing practices won't work for you, or you've tried them and it was kind of a disaster, or you just notice nothing, I'd really like to challenge those ideas. I have been teaching and working with breathing practices for well over 30 years now, and I have yet to meet someone who couldn't benefit from understanding their own personal breathing patterns and learning how to use them to their advantage. There has always been a way in, and you're just, unfortunately, you're not that special. Like, you are very special to me, dear listener, but you're not that unique that you're like the one person in human history that can't learn how conscious control of your breath can benefit you. I've worked with students with cerebral palsy. I've worked with executives with highly dysregulated breathing patterns from chronic stress. I've worked with musicians, athletes, caregivers, and high performers of every kind. And this is what I've learned is that everyone has a unique relationship with their breath. And everyone's breathing pattern is completely unique. And what might work for one person will completely be exactly the wrong thing for another person. But I know for a certainty there is always an entry point, a doorway through which a person can begin to comfortably understand their breathing pattern and learn how to enhance it in ways that work for them. For some people, it's movement. For some people, discovering that their breathing pattern is reversed. And by reverse breathing, I mean simply this. On the inhale, instead of the belly and the ribs naturally expanding, some people suck the belly inward and push the chest outward on the inhale. And on the exhale, their belly pushes out really hard. It's a really common pattern in high performers, people with chronic stress. It happened to me after I had COVID. My breathing pattern reversed while I was fighting off that virus, and I had to work for several weeks to restore a more natural pattern in order to undo that. It can happen, accident, illness, injury. It's normal to have dysregulated breathing patterns, and there's always a way to sort of shift it. We'll get into much more of that in the deep dive episode, but I just want you to know this. If you're someone who feels anxious when you do breathing practices, or focusing on your breath immediately makes you feel cringy and uncomfortable and just not right, it's really common and normal. There's nothing wrong with you, and it does not mean that breathing practices aren't for you. It just means that the doorway in to figuring out how to shift things for you, you just haven't found it yet. For me, I think it's like pizza. There's so many different kinds of pizza out there. There's deep dish, thin crust, Chicago style, Detroit style. But once you find that kind of pizza that you love, you've got it. And you find that doorway into really the richness of that pizza. It's the same way with the breath. You got to find the flavor that works for you. Your breath is your unique password to clarity, calm, and energy. And I believe that, and I believe it's worth exploring. If you've ever watched a dog or a cat or a baby sleeping, you'll see the natural pattern of things opening on the inhale and things releasing and relaxing on the exhale. As adults, we lose that. We tighten, we grip, we force, we brace. And over time, that starts to send patterns of tension to the body regarding the breath. And when we start to try to release some of that, it can feel really scary. It's totally normal. It happened to me as well. I had years of tension as a classical clarinetist because for me, the breath is what makes the sound on the clarinet. So every time I got really deep into yoga and tried to lengthen the exhale, I would do a lot of bracing because that's what exhaling meant to me, was to blow firm air through my clarinet. And it was really hard for me to relax and breathe at the same time. But over time, I just kind of gradually unpicked it. And now I feel like most of the time I can do one or the other, and I get to choose for myself which breathing pattern will work for me in the moments when I want to bring it under my conscious control. And this is why I care so deeply about this work, because breathing is not just about like, oh, you need to relax more. It's about self-awareness, self-discovery. It's about learning how to manage and regulate your energy so you can do more of what you love. It's about bringing more oxygen to your brain so you can think more clearly. It's about having more focus and getting rid of that brain fog that can really keep you from your goals. Ultimately, it's all about learning how to be comfortable with yourself, and I think that is something always worth exploring. So, as you move into your week, I invite you to notice your breath maybe a little more often. You don't have to control it. You don't have to shift it, but just start observing. Is it working for you? Is it not working for you? And maybe once or twice today. Maybe when something stressful happens or there's a moment when you need to address an issue, instead of reacting, take a pause. Take a moment to center your body. Take a moment to take a slow, deep inhale and a long, emptying exhale. Sit with that pause and just notice what changes for you. Thank you for joining me on this Monday morning briefing all about the breath from the Calm Cockpit podcast. I hope you have a fantastic week. Let's take one more slow, deep breath in and an emptying exhale. I am Geeta Brown. I'm so glad you joined me today. And until next time, fly smarter and stress less.